In this lecture, I am going to discuss about routing in Angular. What is routing? Routing allows us to navigate one page to another page in our web applications. Currently, in our base URL, we are displaying post create form and list of post data. Now, I will create separate routes to display post data and to display post create form. So let's implement routing in our Angular applications. We can define our routes inside our app module.ts file, or we can create a separate module for that. For now, let's define our routes inside our app module.ts file. So let's create one variable here called routes, and this will be type of routes, and then this will be an array. Let's import this routes from @angular/router, and inside this array we need to define the routes for each and every pages. So let's define the route for our post list pages. So we need to define the path for our post list page. The path will be our visual/post, and it will load the component called post list component. So let's define the component for this route. So the component will be post list component, and then let's add another route, and this time this will be for our post create form. The URL will be our visual/post/create, and this will load our post create component. Okay, so we have this post list component and post create component already loaded here inside our app module, and this is declared inside our declaration array. You see, post create component and post list component. And after defining our routes, we need to provide our router module inside this app modules imports array. So let's provide router module here, and then we need to call for root method of our router module. So let's call for root method. So this will be router module, right? And then we need to call for root method, and inside this for root method we need to provide the routes we defined already, right? Save this file. So our routing configured successfully, right? So we tells Angular that whenever user will land on this page, we will load this post list component, but where this component will load. So for that, what we need to do, we need to call one directive called router outlet, and the directive will be inside our app component.html file. So currently we have this post create component and post list component here, but we will not provide this component here directly because we need to load this component dynamically, right? So whenever user will land to a certain page, then we will load that component, right? So for that, what we will do, we will comment out this code here, and then we will provide router outlet directive here. So this will be router outlet. Okay, and save this file. So whenever user will land on this page, this post list component will be inside this app component.html file, and you can provide any other div here, so if you wish. So let's add header here, and let's provide this router outlet inside one container. Okay, so let's add one div of class container. These are bootstrap classes. Okay, let's cut this and post it inside this container. Okay, so the dynamic component will load inside this container. Okay, so now let's try to navigate to our post pages. You see, we have list of pages, post slides. Now let's try to navigate to our post create page. You will see that post create form will load. You see, post create form is loading, and we have this header because we provided header inside our app component.html file. So these are the dynamic things will load here, and these are the static things we defined already inside our app component.html file. Okay, now you see, whenever user will land to this base URL, we don't have any route defined, right, for our base URL. So we can create a separate component, or for now, for demonstration purposes, I am telling you what you can do. If you wish to redirect the user back to post page whenever user will land to our base URL, you can do it in this way. So let's provide the route for our base URL, and whenever user will land to our base URL, you can redirect the user back to our post pages. So we need to define that here, and then you need to add path match full here. Okay, so now whenever user will land to our base URL, it will redirect to our post pages. You see, so let's try to navigate to our base URL. You see, it is redirecting to our post pages. So we will not do that. For the demonstration purposes, I use it. Okay, so for our base URL, what I will do, I'll load a separate component called home component. So let's provide the path. So the path will be blank, and then we'll load our home component. So let's create one component first, and then we will do it. Okay, so let's create one component called base component, sorry, home component. So the component name will be home component. So ng for generate, C for component, and the component name will be home. Okay, let's generate it, and then I will create another two component. One is for login component and another is for registration component, because we are going to implement that functionality later. So let's configure the route for that. So let's create another component called login, and I'll create another component called register. Okay, so login and registration component successfully created, right? So now let's provide the component for our base URL, and for our base URL the component will be home component, and then let's define another two routes. One is for login and another is for register. So let's provide the route component for login URL. So login URL route component will be login component, and for registration the URL will be register. Okay, you can modify this URL as per your choice. Okay, so let's load the component for register URL, and this time this will be register component. Okay, so let's try to navigate to our login and registration URL. You see login works, try to navigate to our registration URL, register works, try to navigate to our homepage URL. You see home works. So we successfully configured our routing, right? Now what I will do, I will create a separate module to define our routing, because if we have multiple routes and if we define it inside our app module.ts file, this will be huge file, right? So that is why we can create a separate module for our routing. So what I will do, I will create a separate module. So how we can create a new module? We can create a new module by running ng for generate and m for module, and you can provide the module name, and my module name will be app routing. Okay, and we are going to create a flat module, so we can provide -hyphen flat. Okay, so this will create a new module inside our app folder called app routing module. It is created, right? Now inside this app routing module, what I will do, I will define our routes. So let's copy all these routes from our app module.ts file, or cut it from here and paste it inside our app routing module, and then let's import all this component here, and then inside this app routing modules imports array, let's import our router module, and we need to provide the for route method here, and inside this for route method we need to define the, we need to provide the routes as we already implemented inside our app module.ts file. So let's provide the routes here, and from this app routing module, what we need to do, we need to export that router module. Okay, export that router module. Now we do not need to define routes inside our app module, because we already created a separate module for it called app routing module. So we already imported router module for route here with routes data, and we exported that router module from this app routing module. And then what we need to do, we need to provide this app routing module inside our app modules imports array. So right now we do not need to call this here, so we can simply provide app routing module here inside our app modules imports array. Now this should work, right? Now let's check. So we are getting router outlet is not a known element, right? So for that, what we can do, we can import router module here as well as router module, or let's try to remove that common module from here, and let's check, but this is not required. Yeah, I think for that common module it was showing that error, because we imported router module here, right, and exported router module from here, and we imported that app routing module inside our app module, right? You see, because we have router module already inside our app routing module, so we do not need to import that router module again inside our app module, because we already have this router module inside our app routing module, and we exported it from here and we imported that app routing module inside our app modules imports array, because we had that common module inside this imports array. That is why we are getting that error. Okay, so we can remove this from here. Okay, so we successfully configured our routing, right? So in the next lecture I'm going to add navbar here, and I will tell you how we can navigate one page to another page by clicking on that links, and you will also learn how we can make the links active, inactive according to the page. Okay, and you will also learn how we can navigate the user to one page to another page programmatically by using router. Okay, so stay connected.